All right. We'll let a few more people in here. I'm not even sure how many. There are a ton of comments flooding in. So, hello everybody. Apologies for no halftime spaces today. I was busy doing some other stuff for the Manchester City Arsenal game, which was an incredible. I have no time for people responding to me on Twitter. Um, but that was an incredible game for them. How many of you are in here? About 17 of you. Hopefully get more of you flooding in as we move on here. Obviously Martino, Matt. So mute that over there. As you guys have seen, Milan and Inter have just finished up their third and I won't say final derby because there's a potential of the Coppa Italia, but their third derby of the season, the final one in Serie A. Milan in the home game for this one. Inter obviously lost the opener to start this year with the Gabbia winner. Again, Milan beat them in the Supercoppa. And Matt, relative to form, relative to everything we do and talk about with this team, we say they're terrible. There's no chance they win this. They didn't win it, but they were in a good position the majority of this match. And I thought Milan played well. I thought they played with some passion. They had some fortunate moments, multiple moments of fortune that ultimately ended up getting them the draw as opposed to the win. Inter getting that last minute equalizer. A few things to take away. I will say, just on a surface level, a draw is good. The manner in which it happened is frustrating for everybody.
Yeah.
I think every single person thinks that for the most part. I know some people are like, that's a loss. That's a loss.
Yeah.
I think there's different ways to look at it. I think Milan were very, very fortunate not to even lose this game. There were 3 goals ruled off, all correct calls. So that's not really where I'm talking about the luck. The 3 posts is really what does it. Thuram almost scored a wonder goal. Plenty of other moments for Inter there. Milan not holding on is a example of them playing for a draw rather than the win. They played too scared. Jimenez not passing the ball upfield. Terracciano losing the ball at certain moments in time. But all in all, Matt, I thought this was one of the better defensive performances this season from Milan. In contrast to the Parma match, completely lethargic, lacking energy. This one, energy from the get-go. I know it's a bit easier to get up for a derby, but I think that's where the frustration grows for a lot of people, including myself. So your initial thoughts on just the result and how everything went down.
Yeah, so I mean, if first off, welcome to everybody who's joined us so far. The number's probably climbing up as everyone's getting their
69 right
thoughts
now.
and reactions out here. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to kind of like gather myself because it was such a big adrenaline rush with the final 15 minutes, right? And Inter were knocking, they were knocking, they were knocking. I think 3 or 4 separate post attempts from them.
Great.
So it felt like it was coming, just whether or not it was going to be enough time for them to get a goal. And yeah, that was one of those moments in the very end where, you know, I'm sure Sergio's having a conversation with Jimenez. It's a young player. I think these things happen, but I think that's where the margins are so fine and thin in this sport, and especially when things aren't going as well as you want from a Milan perspective. For Inter, this obviously is a great result when you consider the fact that they had so much bad luck coming into this game. This is obviously a big point for them, you know, heading in that direction towards for the title. But I think
Yeah.
I think that from the Milan side, you have to feel good about the result in totality. You know, if you told us before the match, hey guys, Milan are going to play a really good match. They're going to actually go ahead in this game, which is something you two have been having discussions about, that they never go ahead. They're never the assertive team, never the aggressor, and they're going to draw. Milan fans would have signed up for that, right?
Yeah.
Given all the hysteria around the market, the striker position, not having a lot of options, and frankly, not being in great form, the fact that we're able to put forth this performance, get a draw in this fixture, and look, that's 3 separate inspiring, uplifting Milan performances in a derby. Just to put that into perspective, right? Where we were embarrassing in this fixture for countless fixtures, countless months, countless years, right? And the fact that we're able to put forth this performance defensively, I mean, that was the big talking point for me in this game, because, there was so much conversation about Tomori's future, Pavlovic even. I know the latest report was about Crystal Palace having some interest. I don't know how legitimate the source was, but there was a lot of moving parts in this defense, and fans were wondering how this team was going to cope with all these headlines and this news around this team. And they really showed up with a pretty top performance. I couldn't really ask for much more in a match like this. Do you want Jimenez to clear that ball and put it in the corner for Chukwueze and kill this game off and get the victory? Absolutely. Of course, you want to win a derby. But I think if you look at everything, this is a performance that Milan have to build from. You have to build from this. That has to be the main thing.
Broken record, right?
It's not going to be an easy conversation to have because I think Milan fans are looking at it thinking we were up 1-0. They scored a 93rd minute goal. We kind of fell asleep a little bit. We gave them that opportunity. And my argument would be, you know what? This is Inter. They had 3 chances at the post. They did have opportunities. This wasn't a game where Inter didn't do anything, guys. Like, they had chances. Milan defended well, yes, but Inter had chances to win this game, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you get a 1-1 result here, it's a big point. I think we're 5 points behind Juventus with a game in hand, the Bologna game, of course, coming up later this month. So I can't really ask for too much more. It just stings in the moment because of the manner in which we dropped points, if you want to call it dropped points.
Yeah, I mean, by the definition of it, they are drop points.
Yeah.
But again, to me, it's just results based. We talk about the result, and Milan holding on, like, dude, like people have to realize like the amount that Inter were creating and how many opportunities they had knocking at the door. We're talking about like marginal distances with offsides, fouls.
You get some numbers up there
this
too.
Is a nitty. This is like a classic derby. Like, it's not over till it's over. I understand like there's going to be some animosity towards Jimenez, a young player who messed up. Chukwueze, I guess, losing the ball to an extent. I think there were misplaced passes from Milan players in the first half. I mean, Pavard's tackles were phenomenal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, was Leao even given a chance? Like, to send those balls from Reijnders, like, they're very difficult to complete. So for them to get in behind where Sommer doesn't come out and meet Leao, and Leao gets the ball where he has an opportunity to score, the lines are very thin margins. And for Milan to go up like they did, and this is, like, again, guys, this is a phenomenal Inter team. Phenomenal. And this one mattered more than the Supercoppa because Napoli play against Roma in about like 20 minutes or so. So that's a huge fixture for them. So it's not like there's like this whole built-in excuse that people want to make where Inter weren't doing their best in the derby for the Supercoppa, this and that. Like, listen, Milan were absent, arguably their best midfielder, or one, well, not better than Reijnders this year, but Fofana is a big absence for a club like Milan.
Yeah.
Look who they had a sub on in the midfield, and you're telling me it doesn't matter, right? Like, we had Terracciano getting subbed on there. Jimenez is another one. We didn't have a striker. We had a 16-year-old striker come on in a huge match in the derby where you're trying to like kill off momentum. And by the way, I just want to mention something with Camarda. The ability, okay? I know he didn't show too much really hard moment too. There were moments when Rafael Leao debuted, and he was obviously like 5 years older or whatever he was, 4 or 5 years older for Milan. You saw like flashes from Leao. You're like, holy shit. What you saw from Camarda when he shot that ball on the weak foot and it skimmed over the bar, you guys have to understand, once that person is in a human adult body, he might be terrifying. Truly. There's a lot to go, but you have to understand like the ability to win the ball back, carry the ball, get a shot off, and then have it on your weak foot and hit it with that sort of power outside the box. I think that's like clear signs of what a player is. I think the talent is remarkable. We'll see what happens. Again, I'm not saying or proclaiming anything with him, but just the sheer flash of it. Our good friend Daniel Russo texted me. He said that he quote unquote screamed when he saw the ball.
I saw it come off the left foot. I thought it was going to be one of those like across his body top corner goals, and he was going to have like one of the better all-time Milan moments in a derby for like
absolutely
everything. like the
Yeah, of
aged
course.
Milan product, like the aura. I know that your
Yeah,
word
of
is being
course.
used a lot, but around the player and what he could be, to have that moment would have been like I would have fell down.
Of course, yeah.
Um,
It's just to me, I think
yeah,
everyone there's 2 debuts I always like 2 debut goals that I always remember. One is Poloski from Milan,
yeah.
basically scoring within a first touch, and then there's always Messi's. Messi's debut goal is just always the most skin crawling, goosebump feeling
Yeah,
type of
yeah.
moment where he just gets offside the moment before from Ronaldinho, and you're like, ah, maybe that's it, right? Like Camarda against Brugge. Like, ah, that's really it. Not much like time left, or that was like not gonna happen again. Then Messi comes back and he scores immediately, and the finish is just unbelievable. And again, I'm not saying anything about like that with Camarda and any of that stuff, but sometimes you just see stuff and you're like, okay,
Just a different
that
feeling
is
about the player. Real quick,
that
I just want to read off
go
some of the
for it. Yeah,
stats.
go
So
for
with
it,
this
man.
were the numbers, right? So I think obviously, we I think we're both in agreement. We like to obviously favor the eye test, favor just simply watching the sport, and
Sure.
then kind of throwing in the stats to kind of support or, maybe add some more commentary to the game. So Inter had 62% possession to Milan's 38. The expected goals was 1.34 for Inter to 0.60 for Milan. Total shots were 16 to 10 in favor of Inter, 6 shots on target, 4 on target for Milan, and 2 big chances created for Inter, 1 for Milan. So, I mean, again, guys, and 11 corners for Inter. So the game Inter this wasn't a wow, Inter didn't do anything in this match type of game. It wasn't like that at all, guys. So I think, I mean, again, the way in which Milan conceded the equalizer stings in the moment, but I think by all accounts, a draw is a pretty fair result for Milan, and it has to be something that Milan built from. Especially the fact that we just came off of a miserable performance against Dinamo Zagreb. We let top 8 slip away there. We haven't been playing that great in league play.
Yes.
The derbies should be launching off points. We've said this time and time again. We look to the
It's like
first one.
5 matches this
We
year.
look to the Super Copa. We've looked to this one. Like at some point, Milan have to get it together. I'm hoping that this is the one that gets Milan to where they
Would
need
you
to be. We
say
have a good end to the season.
real quick, maybe
Yeah.
to piggyback off of that, a kind of in my opinion, I always that I love my baseball references. So when when a player comes up from AAA and starts to make that immediate impact as a rookie, I think that's always a huge boost. Another huge boost, and what we've seen storyline wise, is from trades or signings with Luka going to the Lakers last night, which is I have to bring it up. It's fucking disgusting. It's one of the dumbest trades I've ever seen in my life. Okay. Point is, Santiago Jimenez now joining. A striker like that. Do you think Milan can sort of add and build to that momentum on top of what we had just seen? It looks like very much like what I tweeted out is that like Christoph Piontek is going to be debuting in Coppa Italia. Does that amp gonna be put in as well on top of it? Because if he hits the ground running, for example, I think that puts them in a much better spot.
Well, I mean, you saw firsthand today what a new signing can do for a team, right? Kyle
Yes.
Walker
Yeah. Great point.
played
Yeah.
really well at the right back position, and this is something I tweeted out. Obviously, anyone who's watched Kyle Walker over the years knows the caliber of player he is, not just, physically and technically, but like leadership wise, like the intangible things that you really can't measure with stats and all those sorts of things. And he played really well in this game, for what maybe he is lacking with that burst that we're so used to seeing him over the years.
Sure.
You can't really teach the leadership, the intangibles, the calmness that he brings to that position where we were looking at the right back position so negatively for a very long time. And when Calabria or Emerson or any other name at that right back position got on the ball, you held your breath. We're like, just don't give up a goal or don't give up a opportunity for them to score. Like, just don't do anything. Just hoof the ball. We don't care. That's a win for us. But when you have Kyle Walker back there, and you look at how, again, I could be looking too much into this, but I truly believe that a veteran presence in a certain area can bring that sense of calm and have sort of like a I don't know what the word is, but it's sort of a sweeping impact on the rest of the defense. Look at Pavlovic. Look at
Like a
Tomori.
domino effect,
Look
you're
how we
saying?
looked defensively. There was a little bit more bounce and
I
another
get what you're
gear to
saying.
this
Like,
team defensively. And there were even moments too where you had Tammy. Like Tammy was getting back, cleared the ball, kicked it off the Inter guy just to get a goal kick. And it's like one of those things where you're like, just having that little bit of injection on the market and a name and a sort of pedigree of a Kyle Walker can bring to a team is very important. I think I truly believe in those things. I'm not saying Kyle
intangible.
Walker is going to be the same player he was during his Manchester City tenure.
Hell
I'm
no,
not
then they
saying
wouldn't let
that,
him go. They wouldn't let him
but
go.
they wouldn't have let him go. But I think there's something to be said about a player that performs at this level, hasn't played any of the matches besides this. This was his debut. To do it in a derby and to have that sense of calm that, like, I've been in big games. I know how to handle
Yeah.
myself. I know how to navigate a 90-minute match. I know where I need to be, despite not like playing too much with these guys at all, aside from the handful of training sessions we've had. That was huge. And it's something that I think is going to be very interesting to watch going forward, right? Because it's one thing for Tomori and Pavlovic and Teo to have the defensive performance they did today when they've been otherwise mediocre, although Pavlovic has been playing well of late.
Yeah.
But it's another to maintain that and have that level of consistency where it's like not an anomaly. It wasn't just Tomori, Pavlovic, and these guys getting up for a derby, because it doesn't really require much if you're playing at this level to get up for a game like this. Like you should,
Absolutely.
it's built in. But if they
It's
can show this, and this is something that Milan can bring forward, that's huge. Because then again, this is something we talked about, Martino, very early on in the season when Milan were having all these issues defensively, top to bottom, front to back, that you can't always rely on the team to score multiple goals, 3 goals. And I know they
yeah.
haven't been doing that lately and winning in that manner lately anyway. But earlier on in the season, I point to that Cagliari game where you're looking at it and you're like, 3 goals and you draw to a team that probably could get relegated. And then a couple weeks ago, you scored 24, you have 24 shots and you only get 1 goal. So again, like that's where you hope that Milan can build from a performance like this. And if they have to win in certain ways other than scoring goals, because again, Santiago Jimenez comes in, guys. I don't know about you, but we all know that this is one of the more difficult leagues to score in for a striker. It's been said by Ronaldo. It's been said by Zlatan. It's been said by countless other individuals, Romelu Lukaku as well, who's played in other leagues. So to expect Santiago Jimenez to come into this team and all of a sudden start bagging goals, we hope that happens. But I think it's going to take him some time. So while Milan are still adapting to these new faces to their team, we have to show that we can beat teams and claw results in different ways. And if we're able to do it by being a more steady defensive team and being a team that can go and travel, get a win 1-0 away, so be it. But I think that this, again, we always harp on this. This has to be the launching off point. This has to be the moment where Milan turn a corner and start to kind of gather themselves for the stretch run of the season.
Yeah, I mean, so you had a lot to say there, and I had so many thoughts. So I think we'll start with, I think, the defense. What your point was is that, yeah, we weren't, the infamous joke on the internet is that we're playing with 10 men when Emerson Royale's on the field. And anytime, if anyone, I'm not saying like this in like a condescending way, but like if you played sports and a teammate of yours is a liability, you have to make up for them and their job. And it's not to be rude towards like teammates like that, but when people are so bad at something, it also takes away from doing your job. And if your job gets more complicated because someone can't do theirs, then that leads to more mistakes. And I'm not blaming everything on Emerson Royale and Calabria, but at the same time, almost the majority of the goals that we have seen conceded by Milan this year have been by that right side. And when stuff happens through that play and it's coming through there and it's constantly restless, that means that the rest of the opponents can also expose you with that. That means making runs centrally in the area. That means also being more aggressive and doubling and attacking that defender who's isolated as the right back. That makes everything more complicated. It also means you can't press as high as you would want to with someone center back. There are so many little things that matter when a player is so fucking bad at his job, like Emerson Royale and even to an extent Calabria are. So for me, Kyle Walker, the stability, also the vocal leadership is what you're talking about too. We know all the defenders within this team. Teo isn't really, he's more of lead by example as a player. Sometimes his example was shit. Today he was great. I have nothing bad about to say about Teo today. I thought he did every little thing possible that you need in order to win. So I was happy with his performance. Pavlovic, Tomori, same time. I think there was obviously last gasp there on that goal. Zalewski is left alone. I mean, there's so many people there in the box, miscommunication. The amount of barrage there, it was just purely chaotic. Gabia lost De Vrij as well, who ended up getting the winner. Not the winner, sorry, the draw. So for me, I think you're right with the vocal leadership. You need somebody like that. It's one thing when it's Magnan, right? Like everyone knows when Buffon was a great goalkeeper, he's a great vocal leader. But at the same time, you think that Chiellini wasn't saying anything. Even Bonucci himself was a great vocal leader. They're all a unit together. And Milan don't really have those strong sort of personalities. They have personalities, but they aren't these strong, quiet type of leaders where you have your Tonali, who would really get in people's faces and care, and you could see that energy and passion radiating from him. Same would go for Zlatan when he was on the team as well, even to the extent Giroud. So when you are lacking those sort of intangibles, Kyle Walker, so calm on the ball too. We don't need him to be this incredibly pacey right back that has incredible recovery speed, because that's realistically not going to happen at his age. You can't do that every game. And guess what? You also don't need that in Serie A. Serie A is not like what people like kind of have the perception of it from 10 years ago where everybody's like a bad athlete. There's far better like wide players now than there has been in Serie A, but it's still Serie A. The pace of play in itself is not back and forth like we sort of saw today, right? Where we're getting counters here and there. It's usually what you see low blocks against Cagliari. Sure, there's counters, but it's not high pressing counters that lead to all that stuff. So ultimately, I thought it was a great performance. And again, exactly why I wanted Pavlovic to stay, because you see it. I'm sorry, I don't know if you agree with this, but how do you not watch today, see what he's capable of doing, and then even fathom considering taking 15 million for it?
Yeah, that's...
There's clearly a player in there. But I have to ask you, biggest weakness, again, is midfield. I thought midfield really hurt them in the second half after the subs. Your thoughts?
So I'm kind of indifferent on this, because I thought that when Jimenez did come in for Benacer and Milan did opt, or Sergio Conceição did opt for like a 4-4-2, it looked like. I know things get tinkered in game, so to kind of put like an actual formation on something is obviously not always the way to look at it, but a 4-4-2, Pulisic playing off of Tammy Abraham, and having that those two banks of four, I thought Milan did pretty well with that. I liked some of the combinations and sequences that, Jimenez was allowing Milan to play with. There were a couple instances where, Inter were attacking, Milan were able to win the ball back, and then there's that other conversation of, okay, well, can Milan get out of their own end? Can they bring that ball out and create something going forward? And I felt that Jimenez, with his sort of paciness and that element to his game, was able to really combine with certain individuals and allow Milan to spring free and play on the counter, which is what they like to do, right? You're getting Pulisic into space, you're getting Leao into space, and obviously you're having a striker like Tammy, or when Jimenez does get settled and starts playing, to as that reference point, right? So I think that they were able to do some things with Jimenez on the field. Obviously, in a match like this, everything you kind of analyzed and you kind of break down, because you look at what Inter have to bring in this department versus what Milan have to bring in this department. Tijani scores a goal on the doorstep, great finish. We get that. But when you look at guys like Barella pinging the ball around the way he's able to do, just a lot of the other things defensively, you had Hakan, you had all these sorts of players in their midfield. It's like that's where I kind of think Milan really truly need to get a midfielder. And I don't know if that's going to happen, because I know Richie's a conversation. I don't see that happening. They're looking at who's not a midfielder of that caliber, right? He's more of an attacking player. So I wonder where Milan are going to be thinking about in this position going forward, because Musa still had some struggles today. I know he came under scrutiny for the Demo
Bro,
game,
I'm
right?
telling you, he's like Salamakers.
He's
like
like
not
this.
very
Like
good.
he'll have performances against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu where you're like, this guy's everywhere. He's covering everything.
Salamakers is better, by the way.
But now all of a sudden you look at a game like this and you're like, Milan are clearly lacking some sort of balance in that midfield. I think individually, I like a lot of these players. I think Musa does bring some things, but I think the way he's being maybe used under Sergio in relation to the role that Tijani's being asked to play and Benacer, it doesn't seem like they're on the same sort of plane and they're not balanced. And I think that's where Milan, are going to struggle with going forward. Obviously, we can't judge too much because we didn't have Fofana in this game, right? And he's a guy that starts for us alongside Tijani. But I will say, again, that's where I think that Milan, are going to struggle in many games. Whether they find ways to get results in those games is another conversation, but I think it's pretty obvious that Milan do need a midfielder. I know it was one of those, headlines that they're happy with Benacer, they're not getting a midfielder. But I think if you look at it and if Milan are truly serious, we know their financials, we know the squad dynamic, we know their strengths, weaknesses. Midfield still feels like a weakness. I know defense does, but defense feels like it has that ability.
Defense is affected by midfield. It's affected
Correct.
by the guys that protect
because
you.
They're getting constantly bombarded and beaten down.
Of course,
and eventually you're getting something's going to give.
Was so important.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's the one thing I wanted to ask you, and one thing I kind of wanted to open up to people who are in the comments, whatever, was the substitutions, the timing, the players that were brought in. What was your overall thought on that? Because I have mixed feelings on it. I didn't necessarily disagree with maybe some of the names that came on, but maybe when they came on and how that impacted the game is something I want to kind of open up on.
Benacer not having the ability to play longer was frustrating because Jimenez pretty much came on for him at halftime. Loved Camarda coming in. Have no opposition to it. I think the move made sense. Leao and Pulisic off? No. You don't do that. I understand taking Pulisic off because of injury concerns. Because him coming back from that is worrisome. Leao coming off, I don't agree with. I don't. He is, even when Leao, this is why Leao is the best on this fucking team and arguably in the league. Because it doesn't matter what minute it is, that guy can change and flip a match on its head instantly. And I think him coming off allows Inter to breathe much easier.
You remove that element. Yeah.
Regardless of what idiots say on the internet, guys, Simone Inzaghi knows, and those Inter defenders know, that he is the scariest player on the field. Every single time they play this team, they know who the biggest threat is. Yeah. Make no mistake about it. You could love Pulisic, you could love any player you want. When push comes to shove, you know who the best is. Yeah. And I think it was him. So yeah, I mean, listen, I Chukwueze, not much to really go off of. Again, just this is what I talked about in my last video with the Parma stuff. Losing the ball very easily is a characteristic of some of these players. Jimenez, to me, it's the ups and ebbs and flows of young players when you have this project. Mm-hmm. It is difficult, guys. And I don't even want to hate on the kid because I'm not going to, because what he did was a mistake. Absolutely. Every time you have the ball near the box, you're only up 1 and you're towards the end of the match, clear it. I don't care what you do. Stop trying to play it. Kick it out of play. You could reset your defense. You can't get that goal back that you concede. Okay, so I think that right there is huge. I will give the slightest small window in which I'm saying him not playing that ball up to Chukwueze on the side better have been a direction from the manager to say, don't pass that up there. Let's hold on to possession and work down the clock. For me, if you don't give that through ball to Chukwueze over there, it's a huge mistake. Regardless of how you feel about that, the ball being closer to Inter's goal at the end of the game is far better than giving the ball away or holding it on our side, because they could press up, because they have everything to go for, because they're in a title race. I think that sort of stuff matters. I think it screams why Allegri got fired too. And I'm not saying this is going to happen at Conceição, but when you play to draw and to barely hold on, you will drop points. And that's what happened. So those are those subs. Real quick on your also like midfielder comments before. Just want to talk on the Reijnders goal, and then we'll get to our new signing. Samuele Ricci and this Torino thing. Torino does not want to sell him in the middle of the season. I understand where they're coming from. A lot of reports are suggesting that Milan will revisit this in the summer. So it looks like Milan are going to hold firm with what they have in the midfield. You would like to have thought Silvano Vos or Kevin Zeroli would get featured as midfielders at some point. I know there's no like real easy match to get them in. Maybe they can get in midweek against Roma. So there's that. And yeah, Tijani Reijnders, man. I mean, he just keeps on finding a way, bro. It's a really impressive season. Playing better in the past too, had a really rough January as a whole, right? So what do you think of this goal? Just a great awareness on the pitch. Such a smart player.
Yeah, no, I think the goal again, like, you know, you look at it and people think, oh, it's a tap in, like, right? Yeah, Sommer spilled it. You could call it a spill, but I think, you know, it was a good shot low with Leao's left foot, and Sommer obviously at that point, it's like you can't really catch that. So it's just a matter of whether or not you're parrying it into danger, and he did, right? And a good finish by Tijani, because I think we've seen many times where Milan players that will crash the box to get onto a ball like that will just try to side foot it and just kind of kick it. And at that point, there was many Inter players available there to clear that off the line if it did get into their direction. So he shelved that. Like, he kicked that high with the intention of like, I'm not letting anybody slide tackle and kick this off the line. I'm hitting this high and I'm going to hit it hard. So it was a really good finish in that sense. I think that, you know, again, the distance aside, right, is the fact that he kind of like opted for a higher finish versus going for just a simple side-footed finish, which I think, again, would have been probably
easier to block.
Yeah, right? So really good season by him from an offensive standpoint. This was something that we really highlighted, you know, coming into the season and really more so towards our previous season review, was like, this guy needs to score more goals. Milan need to be able to generate more goals and assists and have that edge to their game from the midfield area, you know, and we've seen it, at least from him. And even Fofana. Fofana's had several key assists, right, from that midfield area. Just to kind of comment on some of the things as well. If you think we played well today, you're deluded. Like, everyone's going to have their own opinions. I thought Milan played pretty well. If you don't see it, fine. I know we had a couple.
That's just being nice. I think it's a ridiculous comment.
I think it's a pretty ridiculous thing.
Well.
But it's fine.
I think it's just ridiculous.
But yeah, I thought that Tijani, getting back to the topic here, I thought Tijani played a pretty good game. I think it's just sometimes difficult because I think he's being asked to do quite a bit. He's being being asked to carry a lot in the midfield, but also like going forward and being like a number 10, that's someone that does get on the edge of the box, does have chances. He had another chance that was saved by Sommer to a really good hit. So yeah, I think that Milan, regardless if they get a midfielder or not to help reinforce this area, Tijani has been really, really good in his second year for Milan, and the numbers and also the eye test support that.
Yeah. Inter getting Zalewski is so annoying. I really like that player from Roma, and the fact that they just...
I've seen a lot of mixed feelings on that because I think they're judging him what he did at Roma. I think this is a classic signing that you have to judge by the fact that, okay, well, who is he joining and who's his coach?
Yeah, I know, dude. I don't... But people are just dumb. Like, to break into that Roma team and have success, like, look at them. They're a fucking joke. They're like, I don't care what Ranieri has done, like to rebuild and reboost what they're doing. Like, they're clearly not that good.
I also think it's important to look at, okay, if the guy is so terrible, if the guy's so bad, and I know people are going to say, well, what about Emerson? If the player is so bad and he's not a good quality player at all, why is a team that conceded 1 goal in the Champions League so far, that has one of the best coaches in world football, and coaches a team that is one of the favorites for the Champions League this year? Why'd they bring him in?
Yeah.
Why'd they bring him in? And why'd they put him in to debut in a derby? And why'd he get an assist? I know there's a lot of things that kind of go into that goal, right? Because again, Milan defensively on that goal weren't great. But again, I think context does matter. How many coaches did Zalewski go through at Roma? and now he's joining Simone Inzaghi and Inter in this well-drilled team. Would anyone be stunned that he plays really well? I wouldn't.
No,
I think
not
he's a
at all.
pretty
I
decent
just
player
don't.
who's young, who can
Yeah.
grow under a really good coach like Inzaghi. I don't know.
Yeah, I think people are Roma fans will love Gianluca Mancini, but whatever.
I don't know.
Santiago Jimenez is official. Well, not officially official. They oddly tweeted the
Posted him.
picture
Yeah.
of him next to
They put a
Zlatan.
content up there.
Zlatan doesn't do signings, though. He's not involved in the signings, right? According to some people on Twitter. It has nothing to do with that. He's just a spokesperson. I chose Morata here. I got him over here. I got Kyle Walker over here.
I rejected Kamara going to Monza.
I don't do anything. I don't do anything. No, not me. Not me. No. Jimenez signing for Milan. Listen, structure turned out not to be that bullshit report of them just offering 20 million in 4 installments. Sounds like some fucking nasty work, like Beppe Marotta called them up and said, yeah, this is what they offered. And someone mixed up Inter Milan and Milan because that just didn't even come close to being true. 35 million plus bonuses, plus a future percentage of a resale. Yeah. Santiago Jimenez of Feyenoord is now of Milan. And I got to say, I think that, it's frustrating in how we got here, but ultimately we did. This is a player that more so than recent striker signings has been more proven at his position in the Champions League across multiple competitions. Guys, I will preface this by letting you know right now, I do not give a shit about his scoring record at Mexico. It does not matter. It could not be more irrelevant to me. If you really care about that kind of stuff, go look at Alessandro Del Piero for Italy. And then you get back to me and see what he did at Juve, okay? There are so many guys that fluctuate in terms of their performances with the national team and at home. And this is one of the worst Mexican national teams in a very long time. Their lack of talent is very obvious. This guy has been completely been a consistent player. Is he the best of talents at striker? No. Every single time, guys, we're going to be making a signing around this number. We have to realize and come to the realization Santiago Jimenez is better than Tammy Abraham, and you will find that out soon. Okay? So if you want to do this whole bullshit defending Tammy the whole time in the chat, Tammy sucked this year. There hasn't been a player that's missed more chances in Serie A than Tammy Abraham. You have to understand that. Not to mention his missed penalty too. Tammy stunk. For the amount of money that Tammy Abraham gets, Tammy sucks. Straight up, blunt, I'm going to give it straight to you. He sucked. And I don't mind Tammy. But this whole excuse, we're in February now. Tammy has 2 goals. One of them is a set piece, whatever. Spot. It was a penalty kick. It's a joke. Anyway.
I didn't think he was that bad today, given the circumstances.
No, not today. I'm saying like on a whole, he's our most expensive player. And his salary is of a top player within this side. Like it's a joke. And Gehinde, the idea that because he played in the Dutch league doesn't mean shit. What does that mean? Because he played in the Dutch league, he's not more talented than Tammy? Where do you think Luis Suarez came from before he went to Liverpool? You could answer that question for yourself. One of the greatest strikers of all time. So I'll sit there and wait, and you could reply. Secondly, Milan going forth to just do something like this in terms of getting a guy in there. They had been linked to him in the past. This isn't as panic as most people would like to say. Morata out the door, and then him. I think this is more of a proven goal scorer than they have signed in a very long time. We'll see what happens. I'm not saying this is a slam dunk signing. I just think eventually Milan had to do something like this, and they did. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the signing. Again, I don't claim to be an expert on the player. I don't claim to be an expert of Feyenoord. I leave that to people who have watched the league extensively, have watched him, even Cruz Azul before. I think that's where he was at before he moved to Feyenoord for, I think, 6 million at the time. So this is a huge step up for him. Make no mistake about it. There's a lot of pressure that comes along with this. And no disrespect to his previous clubs. But playing at Milan, it's going to require something a little bit different, right? A lot more pressure that comes with putting on that shirt and being asked to be the guy now, right? When you spend that money, when you go out there and you splash 35 plus bonuses on a player and you give him a lengthy contract, you're asking him to be the hitman, the target man up front, and to do the job, score goals, and all that sort of thing. So I am optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic because of the area that he's playing. Right, it's not easy being a striker in this league for this club, given their struggles and their track record in getting a guy to do the job. Having said all that, from what I have seen, I do think that he is a classic number 9 in the sense of he's a finisher. Like, give me those scrappy goals. I know people will like to judge certain players and, kind of downplay and diminish certain goals where, like Haaland, for example, I'm just stick with me on this one. But they'll say, oh, that's a tap in, or like, oh, he scored from 2 feet out, where it's like, if it's so easy, why isn't everybody scoring 25, 30 goals a year? There's instinct. There's understanding and awareness of the box and where to be and being on the same page as those that are going to be creating the chances. I think if Jimenez can be someone that converts those chances, it doesn't have to be these sexy, glamorous goals.
Of course.
Carlos Baca didn't have always the sexiest goals, but he was
Carlos
a good player.
I can't recall him scoring one outside the box or even behind the penalty spot to a degree. Like that.
He was a really good player and had a really good understanding of the box and his role. It wasn't to be someone who's dribbling by 2-3 players and doing a Rabona goal. He ain't going to have the highlight reel like that. But if Jimenez is a player that you capitalize on the amount of chances that I think Pulisic and Leao and even Tijani can create for him, I think that this guy shouldn't struggle to get goals. I truly believe that. I know people might say, but what about what Morata did, right? Why wasn't Morata able to score goals in this team? And I look at it and I think that Morata a lot of times was caught up too high. He was doing a lot of the grunt work that maybe is sometimes asked of strikers in this modern era to be, okay, but you got to press. You got to be able to get the ball deep and you got to be able to do these sorts of things. And that's fine. And to an extent, I agree that player in a number 9 role should be able to do those things. But I think if you look at the goal catalog that he has scored at Feyenoord over the past couple seasons, it's predominantly in that final third where Milan have really struggled. They've really struggled to just finish chances. And again, the Cagliari game is a prime example of that. You can't have 7 to 8 big chances created and score 1 goal a couple weeks ago. You just can't do that. So I think if Jimenez is able to be someone that is just a cleanup guy in the box and scores the goals, the easy ones that a striker should be able to score playing for a club like Milan, he'll have no issues. Again, psychologically, though, we know this position is different than others, right? If he goes through a stretch of games where he doesn't score or he misses a chance, how does he cope with that? And I think that is going to be very important for his transition. Again, he's going from to a new league. He's doing it mid-season where he's not having the luxury to have that sort of nice transitional period, that time to kind of adjust. He's going to be asked to produce right away. And when you're asking a young striker to produce right away, there is that level of pressure that does mount. So I think that it's going to be interesting to kind of see how he navigates that part of it. But again, in totality, the wages that he's getting, the length of contract, the fee, Milan are going for it when they do sign a player like this. They're trying to address the area, which they should have done last summer, but let bygones be bygones. At least we're getting someone that we do feel good about now.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's funny because remember, guys, Krzysztof Piątek was an immediate success.
He was.
So even if he were to hit the ground running, that doesn't necessarily mean that much, and vice versa. And I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I totally understand your premise. Mm-hmm. It's just more so speaking to the fact of like, hey, even if he does, you can't take too much away. You have to still know on a game by game basis. Mm-hmm. Serie A defenders are going to adjust to him. Players and teams are going to adjust tactically. I think Jimenez is a talent. Ultimately, it's going to be on Milan and him to see how much he succeeds. He hasn't also played with this much talent before, so we'll see. And like I've said, he plays at a relatively big club in Holland. He obviously plays for a huge national team in terms of just popularity and the pressure that comes with playing there. And by all accounts, a good head on his shoulders. You hear nothing negative about him. Sure, you see players miss chances all the time. And if he was this elite finisher, he wouldn't be going for 35 million, guys. Quite simple. Just like Lautaro Martinez. You please tell me and let me know how much money Lautaro cost when he came over from Argentina. Lautaro was in the 20s of millions, right? Haaland was 20 million when he was purchased from Dortmund. Purchased at Dortmund from Salzburg. And by the way, Gehinde, What league did Haaland play in? He was in Austria. I guess that didn't matter. But that's besides the point. I'm very excited for this signing.
Yeah.
We'll see what ultimately happens. There's 167 of you.
Wow.
Oh, we have a couple questions on how Walker played. We thought Walker played well. Again, guys, if you missed any part of this, you could go and rewind, go to the start. There will be the replay uploaded. You just got to go over to the live tabs of this. Isn't much left to do. This Rome Monopoly match is on right now. Really want to watch something like this in terms of the title race. We appreciate every single one of you that stopped in here. We peeked around 170 of you. We apologize we can't get to all the comments. We're really just here for the conversation.
Are there a couple? Are there a couple like obscure questions or things we haven't addressed so far?
I don't know if you can go and check those. I was just reading a bunch of other stuff that was coming across my phone.
I don't know if I can do that via stream.
You should be able to go on the YouTube channel itself.
Are my chats visible? What about Joao Felix? Are those monkey see, monkey do?
Yeah. You could just answer them if you want.
Yeah. So Joao Felix, I think Milan are trying to work on a loan deal. It doesn't seem as though Chelsea's kind of budging. I think they want to basically either sell him permanently or a loan with obligation, which obviously Milan aren't going to put forth that money. They're trying to get like a quick deal and kind of wheel and deal at this point. So I think that one's going to be very difficult. I think Aston Villa also want Joao Felix, from what I understand, despite Rashford and Asensio, who I know I think they're pretty close with or have agreed with already. So I guess we'll wait and see. I think the market closes tomorrow, right? So Milan better get moving if they're going to bring anybody else in. Would you rest Reijnders versus Roma? Maybe. I think that, again, we saw Fofana start to kind of break down over the past couple weeks, and not by force, but he had the yellow card, so therefore he was given a rest for this game against Inter. I think at this point Milan really can't afford to rest their best players, which again goes down to the fact that they don't have the depth and quality that we do need at this point in time. So it'll be interesting, but I think that Tijani is one of those players that he's got a great motor. We've been seeing him play a ton of minutes over the past season and a half. I'd be surprised if he does rest, but maybe he will get the opportunity to do so. Jimenez is going to suffer from a lack of service like Tammy and Morata.
What?
I hope not.
Who said that?
So I don't know, some guy,
Kihinde, bro. What are you smoking, bro? What are you smoking? This team.
There was a lot of missed chances from that Kihinde. There was a lot of missed chances from Tammy and Morata.
I'm gonna pull up these stats so you just stop speaking bullshit, because it's getting exhausting right now. And I love everyone voicing their opinions. Man is much nicer about it than I am. But holy shit, when you just lie about things, it is so incredibly obnoxious. Okay, so here we go. Milan are third in expected goals in Serie A. Third. Do you understand that? So that means Milan create the third most opportunities to score goals in Serie A. So the only other teams that do more of that are the league leaders. Sorry, that are, Inter, Atalanta, Milan are third on shots on target per match. Okay? Big chances missed. Milan are fourth within Serie A. Another top 5 team. Accurate crosses, they're sixth. They could get much better within that. Guys, why are we lying about this? What is the point of lying? There's literal statistics to back this up and prove that you're wrong. This isn't a matter of subjectivity. There is objectivity when it comes to this stuff. They literally do these things. They're quantifiable. You get that?
One of the things this was a good comment. So Brian, there's no last name. It kind of was directed at you, I guess. He goes, "I'm part Dutch and have watched him a lot because I live in the Netherlands. What would you guys like to know?" I think one thing that I would personally like to know, I haven't kept.
I love Brian. Brian spams chat sometimes.
I haven't kept a good a good track record of his body of work, but I think that, is he a player that's streaky, like Jonathan David mold? Is he a player that will get his goals in bunches and he'll get him in a span of 5, 6, 7 games and his numbers look good at the end of the year? Or is this a striker that won't go through these prolonged stretches of not scoring? Is basically kind of what I'm looking at, because I think that's very crucial, right? If he joins us and he doesn't score for the first 5, 6 games, that pressure does mount. So that would be kind of, I guess, a question I would have. A couple quick comments. I'm sick of playing Inter and Juve. I feel like we've played them 10 times this season each. Guys, by the way, Jimenez is a striker who makes runs, but he doesn't play with his back to goal like Lewandowski, Dovbyk. He's more like a Alexander Isak type.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Isak's a fantastic striker. So if we get him, someone like that,
incredible.
I can't too much. We need Emerson, the King Royale. I don't know. You guys can keep him. As far as Suarez, the Dutch league is weaker now. This answers your question, guys. Please understand that from that last season until a few months ago, he was completely out of form, so he can have a spell like that. He's like a 7 to 10 signing, I guess. Is
7 to 10 as a 23-year-old, like the streakiness. Like we saw Lautaro, like a Ballon d'Or contender, struggle for months.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff happens. Like even Holland has gone through stretches.
Yeah.
And Manchester City, and that's the best team in the world. It was not right now; they're really not. Yeah. So like that kind of stuff happens. Kinde, I'm not even going to really entertain your comments anymore because they're just all disingenuous. And you live in this like world. I wish I lived in your world. It must be nice. It must be quiet. But yeah,
Camarda
looks much bigger, right? Yeah, Matthew. I mean, right? Like he's 16, so like anytime, like you could not see a kid for like 8 months around that age, and the difference that they could make. I mean, it's obvious. I'm not saying you don't know that, but like expect more of that. And every single time we see more and more of him, it's great. We'll see. I think there is a big reason. I'm curious on your thoughts as to Zlatan stepping in and saying no to him leaving on loan for 18 months.
Who, to me? Yeah. That question. Oh. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because I think initially we heard it was a 6-month loan, which truthfully I wouldn't have been against. I mean, by all accounts, he felt like our 4th striker at the time. We had Morata, he's gone, Jovic, Tammy. How much minutes would he really get? And he was training a lot with the first team this year, playing very little amounts here and there. And he wasn't really playing with Milan Futuro at all. I don't know how many minutes he's actually accrued there. So, like, he has to play at some point, whether it's with us or whether it's with Milan Futuro or somewhere else. He has to play this season, right? He's a professional footballer. So I wasn't truly against it. But then I saw that it was an 18-month loan. Then Milan had the opportunity to prematurely call him back if they were so inclined to do so. I don't know. I mean, I think that part of me says that, due to the delicacy of the time and Milan right now needing results and needing to get goals up front, where is that window of opportunity for him to show himself and to make those strides forward? I just found it interesting that it was Zlatan. Like, he was the one to kind of pull the plug on the deal, which again, kind of, if I'm the actual directors of this team and I'm the shot callers when it comes to the market and the squad assembly, I would be kind of annoyed that like Ibrahimovic is kind of inserting himself in all these things. And he's like, nah, Camarda, we're not selling you. Like, it kind of undermines your job. And I think it kind of says a lot about Furlani and this management and Moncada and all these guys that are involved in calling the shots with the market. It's like Ibrahimovic at any time can just say, nah, we're not doing this. And he has the last say. So whether I agree or not with him going out on loan is a different conversation. Aside from, again, Ibrahimovic, to your point, just basically having more say on the signings and moves that we make than people are maybe led to believe.
I find it fascinating, to be quite honest with you. 18 months is a long time. And Monza themselves are in danger of going down. And reportedly the clause was Milan could recall him in June if they chose. So it probably would have been contingent upon them just actually staying up. For me, the direction it's headed in, and this is what I've wanted. So this is what I think Milan should do with the striker position. Jimenez is your guy for now. And you keep him there and you let him thrive. Now, as far as backups go, this is where I think it can get a little interesting. 1, Lorenzo Colombo returns and becomes your backup striker. On top of just, like rotating pieces. And then Camarda gets an elevated role within next season as well. I think that Milan can potentially do some moves like that. I don't see Tammy Abraham staying and returning. I think this is it for him. I think he'll finish out the rest of his time here at the club. But yeah, I think with getting these additions up to the striker position, they have to bring some flexibility. I think someone like Noah Okafor will also be sold as well. Maybe get somebody else a little similar to that. In my opinion, by the way, what I would also consider, I think if Lorenzo Luca is available, Lorenzo Luca as a backup on top of what Milan have should be
They're
a
not going
move.
to do that. It's too much money. He's got
I'm
10
saying
goals.
that's what they should do. Just
Yeah,
like
but
they
he's got,
should also sign Samuel Ricky because they also have the money for this. They have the
of
money for
course,
all of this.
of
They
course.
should also have a right back that
Yeah.
it costs anywhere between 10 to 15 million that you help to develop over the course of the next year or two when Kyle Walker's there. And so that way he could take over and
Yeah.
ease his way in. Obviously, the midfielder. I also think, by the way, even if you get in Ricky, for example, you need another one. I think Musa and Benacer both can't be here next year. I think one of the two have to go. Truthfully, I just don't see how people.
I think Benacer is going to be the odd man out.
Spinazzola has just scored against Roma, 1-0
Who?
Napoli. Spinazzola, 1-0
Um,
Napoli. Spinazzola not celebrating for obvious reasons, having played at Roma for many years. Emotional goal for him. Conte speaking with the referee, so not sure what's going on in terms of that. But Napoli looks to be in the lead. That's huge for them in this title race after what Inter had just done. So Napoli up 1-0. That'll pretty much do it for us, though.
Yeah.
We've had a bunch of you guys in here. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. This either coming Tuesday or Wednesday, we will be recording a podcast, so be on the lookout for that. Again, @Matt_Santangelo.
Sorry, will it be just to kind of inform? Will it be a review of this game? I feel like we kind of covered everything.
No, we covered everything here.
Okay.
This will be uploaded as a podcast.
Okay.
And again, we also have what do you call it? Did he just chip? That is actually really impressive. That Sfiliar came out. That is such a nice finish. Wow. But anyways, appreciate you guys. And yeah, again, we will be talking about the Coppa Italia against Roma. And obviously, who do we play this coming weekend? Is it it's a shit team, I believe. Let me pull it up. Milan.
Like an Empoli or something?
Empoli, Saturday the 8th. So Roma midweek on the 5th, and then Empoli on Saturday. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and take care.